Explanation cannot be found in any mathematics, but it has to be found in investor psychology. You can have an extraordinary difference in the price level merely because not only speculators, but investors themselves are looking at the situation through rose-colored glasses rather than dark blue glasses. It may well be true that the underlying psychology of the American people has not changed so much, and that what the American people have been waiting for many years has been an excuse for going back to the speculative attitudes which used to characterize them from time to time. If history counts for anything, that the stock market is much more likely than not to advance to a point where of real danger.
Ben was this incredible teacher. I mean, he was a natural. And I've done some teaching later on. I've actually tried to pattern some of the methods I use after what Ben did. He drew us all in.
One sentence changed my life. Here, remember, I'm a philosopher by background. Ben Graham opened the course by saying, if you want to make money in Wall Street, you must have the proper psychological attitude. No one expresses it better than Spinoza, the philosopher. When he said that, I nearly jumped out of my course. What? I suddenly look up, and he said, and I remember exactly what he said. Spinoza said, you must look at things in the aspect of eternity. And that's what suddenly hooked me on Ben Graham. And I got very involved, found him fascinating, and that's the beginning of why I ended up on Wall Street.
He was stimulating, he was talking about current things that he was doing.
He couldn't get out of the classroom because when he was there, all of these young tyros would go up to him and they'd want to ask him about this stock, not so much about individual stocks per se, but they wanted to just see if they were on the right track.
He could take the most complex problem and reduce it down to simplistic terms in a way using four-letter words that anybody down on the lower echelon could understand.
I usually met him the afternoon of the day he was going to give a lecture. So then he talked about that very day. That made him very popular. But most people talked about last year. And he talked about today the market was very good or very bad. The statement came out, it was good or bad. And that made the audience much more interested.
He would actually ask me questions that I think he already knew the answer to. It was really the Socratic technique, where you ask a question that you might know the answer, but you want to get the other person to think about it.
We get on the subway and open up the book, and he mark it. Look at this one and come, let me know what you think about this one, that one. And he was very frank and with people. You tell them more than they tell him.
He was exceedingly fast, a brilliant thinker. Everything was informal, but while he had a tie and he had a white jacket on, I think that was to absorb the chalk. It was his working uniform.
He was a practitioner, and he was using current examples. I mean, it was like learning baseball from a fellow who was batting 400. Sometimes we wouldn't know where he was going sometimes. And then it was kind of like an O. Henry story. There was always a surprise at the end.
One time he demonstrated that company A looked cheaper than company B, until after about an hour he told the students they were the same company.
After class you could go. He was always accessible and pleasant. He was very nice to students, very warm and very understanding.
He was a Renaissance man. He was as interested in Latin and Greek as in the stock market.
Oh, I'll give you the other quote, the famous quote that ended in the book. He used it in the class. Through chances various, through all the vicissitudes, we make our way. That's Horace. Oh yeah, he very much, if you listen to Graham or talk to him, these things came in.